What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Maple Finance today. Hit that like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it. It is the 21st of April. We've got a new day about us right now. Maple Finance, for those of you who are unaware, is a DeFi protocol project. They are shifting over from MPL Maple token to Syrup token. This token here is at $15.45 right now. This one's at 15 cents 0.5. It's a 100 to 1 ratio, or a 1 to 100 ratio, right? So every one maple gets swapped for 100 syrups. On April 30th, they're going to phase out Maple. It's no longer going to be a part of their protocol at all. So make sure that if you're holding this coin, not financial advice, not a financial advisor, but if you're holding this coin on Coinbase, either sell it or get it to an exchange that will provide that swap for you, or swap it yourself, or just sell it and get into something else. Because if you're holding this after the 30th, it's no longer going to be tradable. And there will be no purpose to it at all. So even if it is tradable, it's just going to go to zero. So not financial advice, not a financial advisor. You should know by now, and if you don't know, hopefully we can help you figure that out. But if you want to do your own research on this project before you invest in either of these, not financial advice, not a financial advisor, I would invest in Syrup, not Maple, if that makes sense. Because Syrup is the one that's the new one. It's taking over. It's what's being merged into. If you want to invest in this, do your own research, right? I'm going to talk about the charts. We're going to do some price analysis and technical analysis here. But if you want to do your own research, you go to Coin Market Cap. You click on website right here. It'll bring you to this website. It was hard for me to find it at first, but I mean, if you just scroll all the way to the bottom, and you look at this right here where it says documentation, you click on that, and it brings you to this page here. You scroll to the bottom, click next, and boom, you're on your way. All of these little sections here, these little columns, they provide different information. I read through everything, man. I read through everything. So I'm very aware of the tokenomics of this. Absolutely aware of what's going on. And I think that it's a very interesting project. I have to admit that. Let's see, where was it where things really started to connect for me? With the borrowing, with the lending, right here. I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, really just all throughout, like this whole part right here, it really, it's interesting. I think that it's interesting, right, how they go about their lending process, because it is DeFi, right? That's how it's categorized, but it's not really DeFi. It's DeFi with a centralized authority backing it. So like the use of it is through DeFi to a certain degree. Like there's decentralized finance aspects of it in its protocol, but really it wouldn't be able to run without the centralized aspects in its protocol either. So I think that it's not really DeFi. I wouldn't call it TradFi. It's CryptoFi. It's crypto finance is what it is. You know what I mean? It really, if the centralized entity wasn't there to back it, there'd be no lending that's happening. There's no borrowing or lending. That whole process goes away. So all you have is staking, which that doesn't make this special, right? What really makes this special, I think, is the way that they go about their lending. I think that their protocols are kind of cool, interesting, different. And again, if you want to do your own research, I really encourage that, right? Don't just take my word for it. But enough of that. Let's actually get into this. And what do I mean by it's different? I mean, whenever I was reading the protocol, or just like the how they go about lending, how they do it through their centralized authority, point of authority, it's interesting. It's not something that I can honestly say that I've seen as far as DeFi protocols go. So and again, it's not really DeFi anyways. No DeFi protocol is really DeFi anyways. At least not the significant ones. But we're not going to use the Syrup chart here to do our TA. We're going to use the Maple chart. Okay, it's a fixed cost ratio, 100 to 1. One Maple equals 100 syrups. Okay, or 1 to 100, whatever the ratio would be appropriately for that. So this price, it follows Maple. It follows the same thing, right? You can see if I was on a daily aspect here, this price action is the same as this price action here. So I'm going to use this because we have more historical data. Maple will phase out of existence. MPL will phase out of existence, right? So this is not the best. It's not going to be based off of this price. Whatever price we come up with by the end of this video, multiply it by 0.1. That'll give you the price prediction for Syrup. Does that make sense? So let's carry on with our bad selves, okay? The only time that I invest in a project myself is whenever I do my research on it. I have to be aware of what it does. I have to find every little piece of information I can read about it and read it. I have to go through Grok and ask for any details that I might have missed, and I'll read the same stuff oftentimes over and over again, but maybe find some interesting nuggets that I didn't find on any of this stuff, that there's somewhere else in like the community that they posted it or something. I like to do my research. I have not invested in Syrup. I have not invested in Maple Finance yet, but I'm, clearly there's an interest there if I've taken the interest to read about it, right? I like DeFi projects. I like DeFi protocols. I think that as far as, and even if it's not DeFi, if it's just crypto finance, let's call it what it is, whatever it is, I think that that's some of the most practical, applicable use cases for cryptocurrency in the modern world and in the future world. Like I really think that it has a purpose in this world whenever it comes to finance. And I think that this cycle, especially being a traditional finance cycle where the institutions are coming in, DeFi is going to take off. And even if it's not DeFi technically, C-Fi, CryptoFi, whatever you want to call it, it's the next phase for TradFi to get in. It makes the most sense for them, and it might not be sexy to you, but it's sexy to them, and what's sexy to them goes up, man. That's the only thing that I know. Looking at this at $15.45 now. Again, assume it's just at 15.5 cents, something like that, right? If we're looking at this here, you've had a long life of consolidation. You came about in May of 2021. A little bit of a bull market there. What'd you see from your low to the high here? Low to high, just a little 12x move there. That's not bad. I mean, it's nothing crazy for crypto. That's pretty small, but you came out at the end of the cycle, so that's okay. Bear market here probably dropped over 90%, I would assume. Yes, most cryptos do. That's pretty standard. And you've had a little bit of a recovery. Now you're finding support at prior areas of resistance, at prior areas of support. Long phase of consolidation, potentially accumulation, whatever, getting ready to break out to the next levels, and I think that you will. This thing has a market cap of about $151 million, fully diluted valuation of $179 million, and I think that it has a lot of potential to grow, you guys. I think that with this being at 151 million, 152 million, let's just call it 150 million, to see a 10x move would be 1.5 billion. To see a 100x move would be 15 billion, and 15 billion is that's a lot of money. From 151 million, 15 billion is a lot of money, but it's a very attainable target to have. And something like this, being a DeFi protocol, I'm not expecting you to live at 15 billion or 40 billion or 45 billion, 80 billion, however high you go. I'm not expecting you to live up there, but maybe you have a moment in this cycle, toward the end of the cycle, where you can see these market cap levels, and you could definitely provide a 100x or more with something like this. Sorry. That's not me saying that it will 100x. That's not me saying that it will multi-100x. But the coins, the tokens that do pull a 100x or multi-100x, they start off at market caps like this, right? And I think that there's some interesting stuff going on. I really like the protocol, or I liked what I was reading. It definitely seems a little bit different. But let's get into this, okay, for real. From a high to a low here, high to a low, talking about a 100x being possible from the current price. Statistically speaking, or not, I would say, generally speaking, statistically speaking, if a crypto has a high one cycle and it persists the next cycle to see new highs, first off, that's above average. Most cryptos see lower highs as they continue on to future cycles, right? They don't see new all-time highs, or if they do, they're double tops, and then they eventually fizzle out into nothing. But if a crypto is to see new all-time highs cycle after cycle, generally you go to the 1618 to the 2272. That's the area that you go to, somewhere in this zone here is what we should expect based off of just like generalities with the fibs. If this thing's 100xable, I would say yes, it can see a $500 price. That's a 32x, and that's about average. That's about what I expect the average crypto to do. So yeah, I could see you hitting a $500 price, that or just below there. That's fine. That's a good minimum target, I think, to have for this thing by the end of the cycle. The 1886 takes you up to about a 75x. The 200 is just above a 100x. I could see that happening. You might see a 1,000 to a $1,600 price. So again, remember, this is for Maple MPL. So a $500 price would really be a $5 price. A $1,000 price, a $1,700 price would really be a would it be $10? Yeah, it'd be like a $17 price, right? Yeah. $11.68 price, stuff like that. It is possible that you could see a $100 price even. Let's see. I would think. Let's see. Yeah, maybe not, actually. I take it back. Probably not a $100 price. I don't think so. On syrup, right? It says. I know over here it'll say $10,000, but $10,000 would be a $100 price. for syrup. Does that make sense? I'm just going to speak in terms of maple and we'll add it up at the end there, okay? But yes, I really do think that you could see a target. Oftentimes the 2272 you do go just above that, so maybe you see at the most a $5,000 price for maple MPL, which again won't exist after the 30th. $5,000 would translate into a $50 price for syrup when the time comes, and that would be the maximum expectation, whereas the minimum expectation would be $500 for MPL, which would be about a 30 to 33x, something like that, just below a $500 price, which would be just under a $5 price for syrup, right? So I hope that translates. I hope that makes sense. That's the cycle high expectations. If we're to perform on average with the average crypto, that would be here. If we're to perform on average with the average crypto as far as seeing new all-time highs goes based on the fibs, that could be here or here, anywhere, right? It's very possible the market cap level checks out and everything for you to see prices that are absurdly higher. Multi-100x is definitely on the table. I don't think that you'll see anything too much larger than like a 330x, but that's still crazy, right, from the current price. I do expect that whenever it comes time to breaking out of this range, whenever you break out of this range here that you've been in since November of 2023, sorry, you're going to see an explosive move, something more explosive than anything you've seen throughout this whole time frame here, probably more explosive than this even, right? Because look at this. Think of it like this. Here you were consolidating, moving sideways very tight for a long time. This was the move you got. This is a bigger phase. It's much larger. My assumption is the move out's going to be larger too. You're going to see a rapid growth. It wouldn't surprise me in the least if you saw some kind of crazy ass move where you were at like a 10x or a 20x from your current price, or even maybe you go all the way up to $500. But again, by the time you go up here, maple's going to be non-existent. It'll be syrup, and that'll be $5 in price. You really could be at your minimum cycle-ending high prediction by the end of June, by the end of this next move. I don't think that's where you're going to go. That's a lot to ask for, but I'm just saying it can happen. There's going to be coins, not financial advice, not a financial advisor. There's going to be coins between now and the end of June that see a 20x, that see a 40x, that see 100x. There's going to be coins that do that. And the ones that see 100x are going to be very volatile, and maybe they're here to last. Maybe they're meme coins, right? The ones that see a 20x, a 40x, those are going to be market leaders. I think they're going to catch a name for themselves. Nobody knows which ones they are at this point in time, or maybe they have theories as to what they are, but they're going to show through. This one has the potential for that. And even if it doesn't, even if you don't, your minimum target whenever it comes to seeing new all-time highs, or at least breaking this all-time high from here, is right here. It's very possible that by the end of June you could see a 10x price, a 17x in price, or of course, maybe you do get that 30x in price as well. Something up here, I expect the average coin to do like a 3 to a 5x. So that would put Maple at least $47 to $68, something like that. But I don't think that's where you go, man. I think, again, this kind of movement, that behavior, that's very compatible with what you saw here. That was a much smaller accumulation phase. So my thoughts are you will see new all-time highs by the end of June. The minimum target by default then would be a 10x move. A 1,000% growth, right? 10x, 10.6x move here, and then potentially I'm gonna curb this. I don't think. I accept it as a possibility, but I don't think you see a 30x from here by the end of June. But I think a 10x to potentially something that's just above the 1414, which would be about $300. That'd be about a 19x in overall growth, right? Yeah, something like that. 10x to a 19x in growth, maybe even a 20x in growth. I could see that. From the current price, I could see that absolutely. Once you break above, I would say once you get a week to close above this week here, this weekly closing high here, at about $27.50, which would be 27.5 cents for syrup, right, for this thing. When you break above that, then it's go time. All right, then you're breaking out of this consolidation phase. You're probably going to see a very rapid. You're going to see week after week. You're going to move up just like this, right? But until then, you might be a little bit volatile, right? Going into the end of this month, going into the beginning of next month, you might have some turbulence there up until you're ready to go, and then you're going to go. I don't know if I have anything else that I want to say. Right, we're looking at this on a daily time frame. You've gotten overbought. You look very strong. You look good. You are finding resistance here at a relative area of resistance. Maybe you pull back. You've got a little event coming up on the 30th, so maybe you have some turbulence in the wake of that. You might find support at the 382. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if by the 30th you were higher. You were probably dramatically higher. I don't think that it stops here. I wouldn't be surprised if you go higher. Not financial advice, not a financial advisor. The expectation at the moment would be to drop down to 1330, about 1330. Which would be 13.3 cents for syrup. Drop down a little bit, and then by the end of the month, continue to grow. On the 30th, I expect you'll have a high. Maybe you'll be above this high. Maybe you'll be dramatically higher. However high it is, I expect your high will be had on the 30th, your merging day. Buy the hype, sell the news event. You'll probably recover from there to start off on Monday. in May, to start off in May, brand new month, you'll probably start off coming down after your merge, after the event happens on the 30th. And then assuming that everything goes smooth, everything's fine, any kind of uncertainty is washed away with like the first couple of weeks, I would assume you begin to recover and you're on your merry way to those higher targets we've talked about, we've evaluated already. So I don't really have anything else that I want to say. I hope it's all clear. I think that this project is interesting. Again, I only read about projects that I personally invest in. Or have interest in investing in. Okay, that's the only time that I actually read about the fundamentals. Or if there's enough requests for me to do like a fundamental analysis, I will. But I don't really like to do fundamental analysis because I want you to do it, and I don't really like to talk about it. I'm better at talking about charts. I don't want to write a script, get a bunch of notes, tell you what everything does or doesn't do. That's not for me to say, right? I'm not getting paid to sell this coin. I'm just talking about it because it interests me. And if it interests you as a good investor or a good speculator, you should take interest in it and read about it yourself and figure out what makes this thing tick. Why would I like to invest in it? Stuff like that. I've got nothing else for you guys. Hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. $15.51 now. 15 cents is really the price. 15.5 cents is the price. I would assume that the minimum target expectation by the end of the cycle would be $5, but I don't think you stop there. I really do think that you stand a chance of seeing prices that are at all the way up at what was it, man? Would it be $40? Yeah, $40 to $50. Yeah, by the end of this cycle. Absolutely. I do think syrup has that chance, and you're only at 15 cents now. I got nothing else for you. Hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.